The latest on that NATO meeting of defense ministers today. Let's go live to Brussels with France24's Dave Keating. Dave, this will be the first meeting with Donald Trump's new Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. What's coming out of there so far?
Yeah, Secretary Hegseth is being closely watched here in Brussels today for an indication about where the Trump administration intends to go with Ukraine. Of course, during the campaign, Donald Trump said he would end the Russian-Ukraine war in 24 hours. But since coming into office, he signaled that actually he is willing to continue U.S. military support for Ukraine, thus continuing the war, if Ukraine turns over raw materials, particularly rare earths, over to the United States. So they're looking to Hegseth to see, okay, what exactly does this mean and what does that continued support mean? Now, Hegseth, coming into Brussels today, said that Europeans are going to have to be in the driver's seat for defending Ukraine, even if the U.S. continues its support. And the administration has been showing how serious it is about that by its absence at several meetings today. So this afternoon, the NATO summit kicks off with a meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group that's actually outside of the NATO structures. It was set up and led by the United States after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Today, for the first time, the UK Defense Secretary will chair that rather than the US Defense Secretary. There was speculation this morning that Hegseth might not even turn up. Then meanwhile, in Paris today, European foreign ministers are meeting to get their position straight ahead of the Munich Security Conference starting on Friday. They're joined by the new European Union Commissioner for Defense and the EU's foreign policy chief. They were hoping to get U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance to attend. He's in Paris anyway for the AI summit over the past 2 days. He's not attending, and neither is the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, even though apparently he was asked. So the Trump administration sending a signal here that, yes, they might be willing to continue military support to Ukraine for a price for those rare earths. However, they are not willing to be in the driver's seat any longer as the U.S. was under the Biden administration.
Despite all of that, Dave, the Trump administration is still overshadowing things there in Brussels. The EU and Canada are holding another summit as well there today. Now, they are both being hit by tariffs and threats from the Trump administration.
Yeah, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau just entered here behind me to have his mini summit with EU leaders. He was in Paris yesterday meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron at the sidelines of that AI summit. And what the EU leaders and Trudeau said coming into this clearly indicates the message they want to convey here. So the EU Council Chair, Antonio Costa, said that clearly trade pacts are better than trade wars and tariffs. And he pointed out the fact that since the EU-Canada Free Trade Agreement took effect in 2017, trade between them has increased by 66%. Trudeau, for his part, called the EU a strong partner in defending democracy and being stable in an unstable world. Clearly, he's referring to the threats that Trump has made against Canada, both to launch tariffs and to annex Canada as the 51st state. Trudeau also noted that Canada and the EU have been growing increasingly close in the recent years, and I would say especially close in the recent weeks, as they are both in the crosshairs for both Trump's military threats, of course, Trump making military threats against an EU territory, EU member state territory, Greenland, and also for the tariff threats. That has brought the EU and Canada closer, and we're seeing that in Trudeau's choice to come here to Brussels today.
All right. Interesting stuff. Thanks for that, Dave. Dave Keating there reporting for us from Brussels.